With the G-20 meeting this weekend in one of my favorite cities in the world, Osaka, Japan, all eyes are going to be on that meeting for several reasons. And I think we're going to be fixated on a lot of drama, but I'm not convinced that a ton is going to happen. There's a lot of moving parts. But let's go on the big stuff. It's really going to be trade dominating that agenda and how the market perceives it. I've said many times that the market's really not great with geopolitical events on a broad spectrum, but the market's pretty good with market moving type of events. And U.S.-China trade, U.S. global trade is pretty much in the market's wheelhouse. My worry is that we're getting back to that scenario where good things are expected on the trade front without any obvious reason to do so. We've gotten really conflicting stories. There were some stories from the South China Morning Post, not clear where they got it, but that things were good on the trade front. Mnuchin made some positive comments, but then a couple of days ago, then he downplayed them afterwards. Kudlow downplayed them. I think the problem is it's managing expectations, and I think when you have a president who is prone to very bold, unilateral type of statements, it's sort of hard to manage the diplomatic process. I think people will be looking for clues of what happens when President Trump meets President Xi. As I've said before, I think the trade situation's a tough one. The U.S. is trying to reset the trade relationship with China and vice versa. Well, China's kind of happy with it the way it is. But you have the largest economy in the world trying to reset the trade balance with the second largest economy in the world. The U.S. goals are more long-term oriented, I think, than we're used to, but they're not actually really being sold to us that way. I think actually the trade fears would go down a bit better, would be digested a bit better if they were portrayed in the sense of this is about long-term trade improvement, but there might be a little short-term pain. I think people are getting very fixated on the short-term pain because we haven't really been sold the idea of the long-term gain. And I think that's not a bad way to approach it because China really does approach these things with a longer-term horizon than just the next election cycle, since they don't actually have election cycles. So what do I expect? I expect some good news and some bad news out of this. I don't necessarily expect a resolution to the trade front. I think the question is how much happy talk can come out of this. That is really unclear. And so, I think if you're going in thinking that this is going to be a catalyst, a catalyst for another leg higher in the market, it very well could be, but it's not clear to me why that is going to happen in the short term. Actually, same could be said for a catalyst downward. I guess, yes, if there's real trade friction or someone gets up from the table screaming at somebody, that really does put a damper on things. But I think more often, I think what we're going to see is something incremental, and I think the relative stagnant nature of the market this week reflects the idea that something incremental, some sort of incremental progress that hopefully moves us in the right direction is what we're likely to get out of the G20 when it's all said and done.